This past Tuesday, we celebrated the solemnity of all the saints, those who are part of the heavenly host, and on Wednesday, the commemoration of all the souls, praying in a special way for all those who are on their way. And this whole month of November in the church is dedicated to special remembrance and prayer for all the faithful departed. But with all this, I was thinking, like, well, how do we just know all this? You know, is this maybe just something we've come up with to, I don't know, make ourselves feel better, you know, or whatnot? But all this hinges on Jesus' resurrection, on the fact that he rose from the dead, and that all of us who are part of his body also have this promise of a share in his resurrection. So in our gospel, we see Jesus talking with the Sadducees. This is right before his own passion, death, and resurrection. And the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. They didn't believe in any kind of eternal life, any kind of spirits, any kind of angels. It was just sort of what was on earth, and that was it. There's nothing else. There's nothing after. That's it. And they tried to contradict Jesus by saying there's no resurrection in the scriptures, and by that they meant the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And Jesus is like, what are you talking about? Like, if that wasn't the case, then why did God say to Moses that I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, who existed hundreds of years before that? They had to be alive in some way to the Lord. And that relationship that God had with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is permanent somehow. This resurrection that Jesus tells us what we're going to have, because we as human beings are a special order of creation, that we're a blend of soul and body, and that everything will rise to a newer and a fuller life. We see a hint of this, of course, in our first reading from 2 Maccabees with these brothers and their mom who were experiencing persecution because of their faith. But they were willing to go through all these hardships and tortures and even death because, as we heard, they trusted in this great resurrection, that Jesus would bring them to life again. Now in all this, I was thinking that maybe it's good to have an example, especially because all this should impact how we live our lives. Is it like the Sadducees who are just concerned with earthly things? Or is our whole life really oriented towards the fullness of life in heaven and this resurrection that we'll experience someday? Do we really have a belief and a trust in that? Because it ultimately means everything for us in our life of faith. So I thought of all of our friends in the church, especially most recently, I thought of Chiara Badano. There she is. I love that picture of her. Chiara was from Italy, and she grew up like a normal kid. She liked to dance, listen to pop music. She played tennis. She liked sports. She liked hanging with her friends. She wasn't so good at school, but she tried hard, and she loved Jesus. Actually, she loved Jesus so much, people at school called her sister. But when she was at the age of 9, she had this great encounter with Jesus and knew that even at that young age that nothing was going to be preferred to Jesus. She had another big encounter when she was 16, when she just desired Jesus to be like her spouse, that she wanted just complete union with Jesus. And at that time, she wanted a new name, and she was given a nickname, Luce, which means light, because the leader of her movement that she was involved with said that your luminous face shows your love for Jesus. When Chiara was 17, she was playing tennis and had this really bad shoulder pain and dropped her racket and just kind of thought, well, maybe it's just one of those things, tweak something. But it turns out she had a rare form of bone cancer. And for the next 2 years, she really suffered a lot with this disease. But yet, even when she was in the hospital, even though it was painful for her to walk she would take walks with other patients so that they wouldn't be depressed. And people would want to come and visit her when she was sick in the hospital or at home to try to lift up her spirits. But it turned out that they were the ones who needed that visit, and that she revived their spirits, because she always still had a smile on her face. She always radiated light. Her dad once would try to peek through the keyhole in her room to make sure that she wasn't just putting on a happy face when people were around. But even when she was by herself, she was singing, she was just praising God, reaching out to others on the phone, and living a life of prayer. When it came to the point where her disease was not going to be curable, she prepared for her funeral like it was going to be her wedding. And she picked out a special dress to wear, and she said, even if I had a choice between walking again and going to heaven, she goes, I wouldn't hesitate. I would choose heaven. And then as she was passing, she said to her mom, bye, Mom, be happy, because I am happy. And she died in October of 1990 at the age of 19. One of her doctors afterwards said that with her, through her smile and through her eyes full of light, she showed us that there is no death, there is only life. Of course, this brings up the sad reality, of course, of suffering and death, especially of someone like Kiara. And she even said when she first got sick, is it right that a 17-year-old should die? But I bring up all this in order to say, how was it that Kiara went through her life and went through her illness and went through her death, if this is all that there was? If there was no resurrection, if there was no Jesus? I think she went through those last couple of years in sickness just as she went through her whole life, in love with Jesus, and got through it all not from positive vibes, because she knew and trusted that God would bring her to life on the other side, and that she would live with him forever. Kiara was declared venerable by the church in 2008 and beatified in 2010. Blessed Kiara Badano's feast day is October 29th. Of course, we too know Jesus as alive in so many ways, and in particular through the gift of himself in the Eucharist. We encounter him as alive. And as St. Paul would tell the Thessalonians, that through his grace we have endurance, and we have encouragement, and we have strength, and we have every good hope. So as we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, let us know in the special way that he gives us himself as our food for the journey towards that place and that time that we will become fully alive in every way.